Mhm.
Welcome back to the Pelvic Floor Month at experientialanatomy.yoga. Joining me are our two resident pelvic floor enthusiasts, Dr. Theresa Pulickal, I think. Am I saying that right?
Pulickal.
Pulickal.
Yeah.
And Dr. Charisse Balance. I'm Lizzie Lasater. So today, ladies, what I'd love to hear you talk about is the concept of Mula Bandha. Mula Bandha. So the root lock. I mean, the degree to which asana was developed by men for men to suppress sexual energy, I believe we don't pay enough attention and take seriously enough the fact that we have not only done a transcultural migration and a transnational migration with this practice, but we've undergone, of course, a transgender migration. So when we move the practice of asana into the female body and into the female pelvic floor, because that's what we're here to talk about, which is disrupted, we could say, by a second hole. It's a completely different anatomical function. So what is your take on Mula Bandha? Should we be instructing our students? Do you teach yoga? Do you instruct your students? In your own practice? Do you think about Mula Bandha? And I'll just end my question with sharing that what Mom has said, that her teacher, BKS Iyengar, didn't talk a lot about the bandhas in general and didn't encourage his students to really work on the bandhas from here, but rather his philosophy was when you align the pose correctly and when the energy of the pose is moving, the bandhas happen spontaneously.
I love that. I love to think about, the bandhas as being an energetic thing. I mean, we're so holistic as people. We're anatomical. We have muscles, bones, nerves, circulation, but we also have an energy. We have thoughts, we have emotions. We're like a whole complex thing here. So using the Mula Bandha energetically, I think, if you wanted to do one pelvic floor contraction and felt it, and then just put your mind and your energy in that area, it's already being activated. From my point of view, you're thinking about it, you're getting the energy there, and you can focus that way without having to do this maximum contraction. The muscles really aren't made to just do a 1 rep holding max. I mean, this is endurance here. You have to have these activated all day long. So that 1 rep max and the breathing techniques and putting a lot of pressure already over there. As women, we're already dealing with a lot of pressures in our pelvic floors from hormones. Some of us carry babies, and
which we can hear in the background.
Yes.
Your babies.
That's nice.
What do you think, Charisse? What's your take on it, on Mula Bandha?
I think that it exists from an anatomical standpoint. Yes, your levator ani are there, but I think that it, especially in the Western culture, especially where people seem so upregulated, anyways. Your mom likes to call us vata deranged. It's important. It's important not to overactivate that area. And like I said before, one of our teachers studied in a specific school of yoga and was overactivating and was instructed to overactivate. Well, she was instructed to activate, which probably caused her to overactivate, and she got a 4th degree tear. So, it's like just the awareness, like Theresa was saying, is enough. And that
4th degree tear is so bad. It's like deep down into the muscles. That's a lot of rebuilding you have to do there. So think about your Mula Bandha being disrupted. I mean, a 4th degree tear is disrupting a lot of things down there, right?
Yeah. So a 4th degree tear goes from your vagina all the way to your rectum. So that's what a 4th degree tear is. So you don't want that. And if you look from if you put electrodes on your pelvic floor, there's always about a 2 millivolt activation there, as far as if you're looking at the electrical activation of your pelvic floor. So it's always working because it's supporting all your organs. So
yeah, that's something I didn't understand the way I received the training of Ashtanga yoga when I was more than a decade ago, I was into Ashtanga for a while. And what I heard, it was potentially misheard or misunderstood, but I sort of heard that I was supposed to lift my pelvic floor, do the primary series, and then relax my pelvic floor in Shavasana. Like as if I was supposed to do Mula Bandha the entire 90 minutes of my practice. And that never really made sense to me. Just, like there's not really any muscle in my body that I just contract and then just contract.
Hold it, right? I know. Could you imagine doing your whole practice like, okay, I'm going to contract my upper traps. I'm just going to do all my practice like this. My whole sun salutation like this. Like, that's the same thing you're asking your pelvic floor to do. That's ridiculous.
So, yeah, exactly. Like, I think of it as inhaling and exhaling. So in your own practice, for example, when do you consciously exhale the pelvic floor, relax the pelvic floor? Do you have that idea in your body?
I like to call it bulging my pelvic floor. When you exhale, your pelvic floor bulges. So if you sit on like a bolster or a blanket, go ahead and do that.
That's what I'm doing.
Place that blanket
here, yeah.
There you go. And place that blanket between your sit bones and close your eyes. And as you exhale, picture your pelvic floor dropping into the blanket. I'm sorry, that was wrong. As you inhale, right. Your diaphragm drops and your pelvic floor drops. And as you exhale, your pelvic floor lifts.
I've done this with Mary Richards before, and I have a hard time feeling it. I have a hard time feeling on the inhalation that it drops down.
Maybe off video, you can use a mirror, Lizzie. You can. It's definitely visible. If you use a mirror, you can see that there's a bulge. It's a small drop and it's visible. Like you could see the muscles moving. It's so fascinating because just by breathing, you could see how it's moving. It's great.
Okay, homework for everyone who's watching. Breathe with a mirror. You know, what I love about meeting you two and your enthusiasm of coming and speaking with us is that frankly, the pelvic floor is a corner of the universe that I haven't spent an enormous amount of time thinking about. I've taken it for granted. And what I love is meeting people who are just so enthusiastic about something I've like barely heard of, you know? It's this whole kind of world.
It is totally a different world.
Definitely.
Yeah. So before we close this episode, I would love to hear one idea or fact or sensation about the pelvic floor that you're really excited about right now.
That's a good.
Putting you on the spot.
Okay, I'll say something. I told you guys I work in chronic pain primarily, and what we learned in one of our trainings was that your pelvic floor tension is directly related to the tension in your jaw. So a lot of patients might have TMJ dysfunction, and it's because, when you're stressed, you hold here in your masseter muscles. And it's the same with your pelvic floor. So it would be interesting to see, I would love to do a study to see, how tight it is down there relative to here. And just so know that. So if you do have TMJ dysfunction or you grind your teeth at night, be aware of your pelvic floor and maybe, be more aware of it and maybe see a pelvic floor therapist. See if there's anything going on.
Fascinating. Yeah, Theresa, what do you have for us?
I really like what Charisse was saying there. I remember reading a study about the upper traps and how tense they were and how related that was to upregulation of pelvic floor. And I found that super interesting. All this time I've been seeing patients with neck pain, and sometimes I'm thinking, about pelvic floor dysfunction. And the craziest thing is I will ask people while I'm working with them on their neck pain, and they say, "What's the pelvic floor?" They don't even know. So it's a whole educational thing there, and not that you necessarily have to, have the evaluation right there and then, but just bringing that to light and letting people know that could be the culprit. I mean, I like to think, and I know Charisse is the same, that everything is in the pelvis. There's like so much energy there. It's the core. You have to move around that center, you know? So there must be something that's related. And if we could really just get people to be aware of their own bodies, I think that will make a big change in yoga. I mean, like you were saying, how yoga was made for, you know, skinny Indian men with small pelvises. And now it's a lot of women doing yoga, and it's not shaped exactly for us, but we can make changes. We could do, and you know, and we can make yoga for us.
Yes.
But I think it starts with awareness.
Yes. Sure. Well, I can definitely tell why the two of you loved Mom when you met her for Experiential Anatomy Live for a week, because she and Mary Richards are obsessed with the pelvis, and they believe that the pelvis is the center of all asana, the center of movement in asana.
Oh, it is.
It's the center. Okay.
Hello.
It's the center. So for the homework, I just want to orient everyone. Okay, so when you're looking at yourself,
hold it up a little.
Okay.
No, yeah, like higher and closer to the camera.
There?
Closer. Come. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is your vagina. This is your rectum. This is your perineal body. This is where a lot of the different muscles meet and attach. So when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, breathing, look here, and this should move forward and back slightly.
Okay.
You'll see it. Okay. Know this. Become familiar with this.
I know, how many times do you even look down there and it's part of your own body? I feel like not often.
All right, ladies, thank you so much for sharing your enthusiasm with us and your knowledge. Tell us where we can find you on the internet.
You can find me on Facebook at Holistic Approach Therapy, and I'm also on Instagram as Holistic Approach Therapy.
Great. And Charisse?
And you can find me on Instagram as Balanced Physio Yoga, and you can find me online as balancedphysioyoga.com.
Well done. I'm Lizzie at Lizzie Lasater on Instagram, LizzieLasater.com. And of course, more of these videos, more yoga anatomy content, www.experientialanatomy.yoga. All right. We will talk again soon. Namaste.
Bye. Thank you. Namaste.
Bye.
Bye.